Excellent. Well, welcome to the TADSummit Innovators. I am really excited to have Bogdan on, the man behind, well, he's part of the team behind OpenSIPS, who is an amazing SIP router and, of course, has expanded well beyond that. Also, SIPhub, which is one of the things that he does, and he's going to explain in a little bit, was a sponsor for TADSummit. So again, thank you so much for that, Bogdan. Over to you, please. Let's understand a little bit of history around OpenSIPS and how you've evolved to adding a second arm to OpenSIPS with SIPhub.
Hi, Alan. First, thanks for having me here and doing this podcast. I'm trying to think how I can condense in a reasonable amount of phrases like what you asked for. Trying to keep it short. So my first contact with what SIP is and voice over IP was in 2001, so more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's the point when I got infected with this disease of doing VoIP. Then we are in regards to the OpenSIPS project. So starting since 2001, in different ways, worked in project. OpenSIPS itself, as we know it right now, started in 2008, if I remember correctly. That was like a quite interesting path and evolution of the project in terms of community, in terms of evolution as a technology.
Yeah.
Looking back, you can see how the project. I guess all the open source VoIP projects went through all the phases along with the vibe of the VoIP industry. Like all the excitement in the very beginning, everybody was trying to do new things. A bunch of RFCs popping up over the night about new features and so on and so on. And then slowly getting to the more mature things, like people, okay, let's try to make use of it, and turning an eye to the security and all these. Also as a project, as I said, we went through all these phases together with the industry part, especially because as we want to say, the OpenSIPS is a project that tries to solve the industry needs. So okay, even if we are like an open source project, so trying as much as possible to follow all the mentalities when it comes to open source. I'm saying trying to, because open source is not so well defined as concept, so there are a lot of gray areas, a lot of interpretation, and it is but in terms of projects, so we try as much as possible to be a nice, fair player in the open source. But in the same time, you think of, okay, what is the purpose of the project? I mean, what is trying to achieve? Because it's not a hobby I'm just doing for my own pleasure. Yeah. Basically, we are trying to address some needs, to provide software for people who actually need something like this. So we need to we try as much as possible to keep this connection between, okay, what are our users need from OpenSIPS, and that's actually what it's guiding us. So somehow that's the philosophy in terms of the way the project evolves.
And who are some of those users? Who are your typical customers? Because it's a long list, but I think it's good to come from you.
Yes. That's one of the things that you just share with your doctor and your priest.
I understand.
Right. Maybe that's an interesting side effect of open source, because you never know exactly who's using. There is no obligation to go back to admit to contribute or nothing. It's you can the least you can do is take the code and use it. And again, you have no idea who's using in what businesses, in what services, and so on and so on. Sometimes you are surprised by, learning, through back channels and things like that. Like, hey, those guys, hey, you're using, I don't know what.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe categories then, because I mean, as an independent, I see telcos, large telcos using, OpenSIPs. I see most of the programmable communications industry using OpenSIPs because you're the front end. All those requests come into you, and then across all those different, some media servers, you're providing the routing, but you're also providing increasingly a lot of the media functionality as well within the project. So it's a very interesting transition I see from where OpenSIPs began to where you are today.
Yes, because as you said, OpenSIPs itself, it's a very programmable application or software. You can actually serve a very wide spectrum of needs when it comes to what you can achieve with it. Starting like for ITSP trying to offer like simple VoIP services to an end user, or even to, let's say, escalating a bit and not so simple, maybe more like class 5, PBX oriented services to SMBs. Then we can talk about companies using actually to build a SIP infrastructures like SBC trunking systems, so carriers involved and so on. And operators, telcos doing again a lot of more or less infrastructure things into IMS and so on and so on. So as time as we have a SIP call, you can do that with OpenSIP. So more or less we are all over the place. We try as much as possible to even if we don't have any kind of media built in, you're in together with other softwares like RTP proxy, RTP engines. Yes, we try to as much as possible to to cover everything.
Exactly.
But
it's an ecosystem. You have to work together with, RTP engine. It's so well known and loved, and it's a mature project.
Yeah, one of the things I love to think into is like, try to do the things you are good at, and don't do everything by yourself. So we do good signaling. Let other people do good media. So and put the things together, and you'll get an overall good solution.
Exactly. So one of the things that you presented at TADSummit, and I think this is a really interesting approach, is with SIPhub, creating these SIP engines as a way to help link the open source project more closely to the needs of the industry. So maybe you could provide a little bit of background and insight around what drove you to create SIPhub and some of the ways you're thinking about how that can help support the overall project. Because I mean, you're a small business and you need regular income to pay for all the support, development, and everything else that goes behind such a large project.
True, and I would say there are like two actually connections on two levels between on one side OpenSIPS, which is the open source project. On the other side, we have the SIPhub, which is a commercial entity. So just to be clear, who's what? Again, so there is a connection at two levels. I wouldn't say one is more or less important than the other.
No.
And in the same time, they were created almost like simultaneous. First, already mentioned that the project itself, said, we need to be guided by the industry needs. So it's driven by the industry needs. Okay, so how do you actually get a pulse on what industry needs? Because it's not something like, you go and ask at the supermarket for that, right? So what better way to do it is by trying to be an industry player, at least to provide solutions for industry. People will come to you, will say, hey, I need that and that and that, doing A, B, C, D. So you start learning on different kind of requirements, different kind of types of solutions, and so on and so on. So yeah, that's one of the things. So to a certain point, the commercial part was a good source of inspiration, or again, as I said, taking the pulse of the industry in order to drive the project as development.
Okay.
And on the second level is actually on the financial level, because the idea with the open source is to share code and try to have people working together and so on and so on. But at the end of the day, it's still work involved. You have resources involved in the project, and you need a way to cover expenses. As in the presentation during the TADSummit in Paris, they're like when you go above the hobby / garage project stage, then you have to think about, okay, paying people, you need to put the bread on the table. You need to pay a lot of services that you consume as a project. So you start thinking about, okay, how do I do this? And okay, you try to get donations and so on and so on, but at the point you cannot sustain by donations, because they are imprevisible. So nobody knows exactly when it will happen or how much. You cannot plan. So, now thinking back, you see this pattern more and more often, like a project and a company. I mean, we have like Ubuntu, we have Canonical behind it. We have okay, Red Hat and Red Hat.
Yes.
In this case. We have now with FreeSwitch and the SignalWire company. And I was looking, actually, the week after the TADSummit, I received an email about, there is a project about SIP user agent, a soft phone, basically, a lean phone.
Oh, yes.
And they have a company also.
Interesting. I missed that one.
I don't remember exactly the name.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
So let me see if I can find it quickly here.
Yeah, no problem.
But it was more or less the same idea. Okay, this is the project, and this is the here. I have like, who is Belladon Communication, which is discover the company behind the Lean Phone open source project. So that's an email from them. I'm on their mailing list because for some projects we need also soft phones, and we use
you need clients,
Lean Phone. So all the time when you have like mature open source project that like a large scale project, you need to have a commercial entity to be able to provide all the resources, to the project, and in the same time to close the circle in terms of communicating with the industry part. At least, that's the way I see it.
Because there's always a dynamic tension between the commercial entity and the project. I mean, if we look at, with SignalWire and FreeSwitch, there's how soon or how often is the next release of FreeSwitch versus the commercial needs that SignalWire has for its customers. So there always seems to be a bit of a dynamic tension between the commercial side and the open source. Now, how do you manage that between OpenSIPS and SIPhub?
Well, if you find someone, able to answer to that, let me know. I want to talk to him. No, that's a really tricky situation. And whatever it's the model of interaction between the two entities, all the time you get to some, as you said, some tensions. Because at the end of the day, the two entities are like two different faces of the same group of people of the
Correct.
same,
It's the same people, exactly.
So, sometimes the biggest, challenge is how to manage the resources between.
Yes.
Working on project, working on, within the company,
Yeah.
and trying to neglect one of them will basically automatically induce kind of a starvation on the other side. So you cannot break the circle because then boom, everything goes wasted. So you have to be really, really careful on how you allocate your resources, how you pay attention into different moments of time. Sometimes there are events or in times of which are more relevant to the project, like we have the summit, and then we know that 150% of the time goes in there, and we are trying to put together some kind of a new OpenSIPS based product, like a new SIP engine. In that case, yes, we put more effort over there, but you need to keep a balance, an overall balance between that.
Interesting.
It's like walking on the wire, so you have to be careful. It's something that,
it's a balancing act.
I don't claim to solve the mystery or have the receipt for that. It's like trial and error.
It would be the key point you highlighted is it's the same people, and you exist within a community. So the community has a moderating effect, as well as the resources you have available as well. Now, one thing in your presentation is there's like a fundamental unit you create, the SIP engine, that enables you to then have a way of monetizing all the knowledge that you've built up over the decades for particular industry implementations. Now, how do you, what's the commercial? So I'm just talking about SIPhub here, and you've got a SIP engine, you've got some client needs coming in. What's the commercial relationship there? Is it done on a project basis? Is it like on a support base? I'm just trying to understand the commercial model for working with different industry customers, sorry.
Yes. I mean, sometimes we have to, I would say, fight some mentalities when it comes to the open source. People do think that, and I don't want to judge.
No.
Just an observation.
It is,
That if you have an open source project, then everything is basically for free. Like, license means code is for free, but they understand that any kind of help, time that you invest into that, into helping people on the list is for free. And sometimes it's maybe a bit frustrating to a certain point when they are too demanding, because into a project, it's about the code. Yes, that's according to the license. It's shareable. That's basically the outcome of the project. The result of the project. On the other hand, when you think of that, it's like, what you can actually monetize on the commercial side is the knowledge on that piece of software. Knowledge which may be starting from how to use it, doing development on demand. Somebody wants some particular extension, doing support. So these were the services, because they are the simplest one to provide this kind of knowledge. I mean, in OpenSIPS, you have like 150 or so, even more modules. If you combine, you can do like a script. So you can do more or less. If it comes to SIP, you can do it. But the learning curve is steep.
Yes.
That's it. It's a complex project. And sometimes, that's you need a lot of knowledge to master before using, especially if you aim to use it in production, not only for playing with your project and do a trial and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And
because one of the nice things with OpenSIPS is like high availability is baked in, but there's the implementation And then there's the specific requirements, where that high availability may also include like geoscalability, where you need to work across multiple geographies. So where do because as I was thinking about it, is where do you draw the line between what's baked in the project and then given the real world implementation needs of particular clients? Is it just based on your knowledge in terms of, well, the project supports this, but what you're asking for needs us to do that? So where's the line drawn there?
It comes to, let's say, putting the pieces together.
Understood.
Because the code, it's the same, so
yep.
we don't have any kind of special code
yep.
or releases for the commercial part.
No.
It's just the public one. But in terms of how to say, combining all the pieces together in order to make it do whatever you need. So that's the secret. Actually, to make OpenSIPs, you need the code.
Yep.
But all the intelligence in terms of using that code, harnessing the power of the code, the configuration file, which is a language by itself where you program OpenSIPs. And if you don't understand, or if you don't know all the complexity and tricks on that, well, you may spend maybe 1 or 2 years learning.
Yes.
So that's the point where sometimes passing the knowledge as knowledge becomes really difficult and painstaking because of the time.
Exactly.
Work.
Yeah.
And here comes the products or the SIP engines we did. These are like encapsulated. It's an encapsulated knowledge where we condense a lot of knowledge in terms of how to do OpenSIPs to behave as an SBC.
Gotcha.
I don't need to explain. I just give you a SIP engine, basically a product based on OpenSIPs, which is not only the OpenSIPs itself, that's the core, but you have everything like APIs, database,
exactly.
high availability, geo-distribution, as you mentioned. So a lot of things, a lot of knowledge, not only about the project, but in order to create like a fully working solution.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the way. Like, you take it now, tomorrow works for you. So it shortens a lot the delivery time.
Exactly.
Getting access to the knowledge.
Exactly.
Right?
Gotcha. And now, do you charge that under a services contract, or is it a product offering?
It's a product.
Gotcha.
Sounds strange. It's licensed, even if license of OpenSIPs it's GPL.
Exactly.
But what we license is actually the config file.
Yes,
so,
that's it. Got it. That's clear. Now I understand.
You have the full robot, but you also need the brain to make it work.
Exactly. No, that's clear. I understand now. Okay. And most of it was in your presentation. I maybe have missed that, but now that gives me, because I was just trying to understand the model. Now it's the config file, and that's clear. It's something that you can keep, basically closed, because that's where all your knowledge is hidden.
There are different models. For example, with what Dave mentioned and what SignalWire does, they're not necessarily providing products. They are providing actually services.
Correct. Yes.
Right? So it's a different way of providing the same kind of knowledge, but embedded into a services. For us, we are 2 engineers. We are really scared of the end user. We prefer like the business to business approach rather than end user. So we said, service, end user oriented service. I'm not sure. let's try to skip that.
We know how to build an SBC with high availability and geo-redundancy. Okay, here you go. This is what you need. And then, you want the config file. This is what you need to pay for. So it makes it very clear, easy to understand. And also the benefit to the customer is very clear as well, because it could be, as you say, it is so complex, the project. It could be easily a year to 18 months to build up not just the knowledge and understanding, but the confidence that you can implement it as you want, rather than working with the experts around that project.
I would say there are 2 important aspects over here, and one of them was very, nicely put by James Bodie. Maybe like more than 15 years ago, when he said, okay, is actually open source for free? What's the difference? Because if you look at the end, if you buy, let's say, an open source based project, at that time he was involved with the True Phone.
That's right. Yes.
Building
Yeah.
a lot of things with open source. And he said, well, we are still paying for. It's not cheap. I mean, you go to a vendor, you pay for. Okay, you use open source, you pay for. But actually, what you are paying and what you are getting. If you go to classical vendors, so maybe 90% of the cost goes for code license.
Yes.
And just 10% for eventual customization, changes.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Maintenance.
Well, with open source, it's exactly the other way around.
Exactly.
So basically, that was what James said. Okay, you pay the same money, but you get 100% what you want.
Exactly.
Because you get all the customizations possible. It's a more flexible solution.
Exactly. You own the roadmap. It's as simple as that. When you build an open source, you own your roadmap rather than you have to deal with a third party and wait for basically your feature you'd like to add to become important enough for them to add to their roadmap. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Yeah, I forgot James said that. It is. It was about 15 years. We're digging up history there.
He how to say, it was like a really interesting presentation of him. I remember some slides about the dinosaurs. One was colored in orange, another one in red. Some suggestions on the players on the market.
Yes.
About how VoIP, how disruptive VoIP is to the telcos. Okay,
exactly.
Again, that was like 15 years ago.
I know. But, it had its impact. But, cool. So this is really good because this has helped me understand more specifically how you're positioning SIPhub, and it's the config file that provides the sort of monetization piece around there. Johnny, is there anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of questions.
Go for it.
I don't get the whole free thing. So let me put this up here. I was just talking. So here, Bob, you see that? It's a phone card, $20, free. Right? See this? Free, $20. Right? Nothing's free. So that was a guy. I come from the calling card industry. So when you were tinkering, I was selling calling cards. And this is a guy, Sam Tawfik. He started, actually was the biggest genius in the industry. He had a company called PT1, billions a year in phone card sales. And then STI, and he came out with a product called Free, $20, free calling. You could just call unlimited. So I get the open source. I understand all that. I don't understand why you can't tell me or anybody who your customers are, if it's only for your doctor or your priest. So the whole mentality around open source, like, where's your exit? So there's a beginning, and there's a middle, and an end to everything in life, the way I look at it, and in business. The first thing you do when you start a business, you get a D&O policy. So when things go bad or when new technology comes out. So I was in an industry that was completely replaced by VoIP, right? It became free, where we were selling calling cards for 25 cents a minute. You guys came in and disrupted our entire industry. So it's the whole mentality around it, Alan, forgive me. There's got to be a way where you can flip the script. I mean, Facebook just came out with $10 now for free ads, service without ads, right? So that was free, right? So they put a price on privacy. I mean, there's got to be a way you can monetize this greater from my standpoint. That just bothers me. So I look at finance and trading and the public markets and how do you make money? And you got so many people using this. What if you just turned around and said, well, it's no longer free, or free, $20, or whatever that number may be. You know what I mean? Here, it's free, but here's the price for free. Yeah. What is that for? I don't know. Yeah. We're going to give it to our own charity for ourselves. I don't know what you're telling me. But I mean, how many people would how much do people actually need you? Is my question.
Ooh, that's a difficult way to answer. It's hard to quantify. Definitely, there are a lot.
So they need you,
Many.
right? So hire me for a day. I'll call everybody up and say, "Yeah, we're going to close. We're going to close your account." Very simple.
You
How much
see,
is that worth to you?
that's the thing. You don't have anything closer to the concept of an account with somebody using your project. It's quite a loose relation.
Yeah. Because they have the code.
Go there, just download, and that's it. You have no clue.
I have a good finance guy for you that can change that model around for you. I don't get it. You know, how do you retire doing this?
Well, that's something. I mean, definitely from the open source perspective, I don't want to talk about, let's say, an exit strategy or retiring. It's something that it's left to the community to continue, or people in the
Okay.
It's not only about me. There are other people involved. So at the point, somebody will pick up the challenge and continue with the project. So from the project perspective, as I said, I don't want to think of that, and it's just to continue ideally for as long as the industry goes, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Well, in terms of the commercial side, of course, everybody wants to, eventually at the age of 35. So anyhow, I'm doing it for a long time for that, to retire in some island and, have cocktails forever and something like that, even if it sounds boring. But again, at the end of the day, it's not about code, it's about knowledge. So it's packing knowledge in something that you can, let's say, sell it or pass it further, let's say, to a company that's looking to inherit what you did and continue resell it or building something on top and so on and so on. That's one of the things when we said, okay, let's call what we do like a SIP engines and not complete solutions. Basically, our entities powering different kind of overall VoIP solutions, For example, like providing engines for cars. So whoever will be interested to make a new car, okay, you can use your engine. So that was somehow the analogy in terms of what we are using to give you the full flexibility to do whatever you want to look like a Lamborghini, like a Porsche, like a Ferrari, whatever. But still, I give you a very, very good engine that can fit in terms of performance, your needs. And at the end of the day, when you have ideally such a solid product, such a solid engine, being a product, you can sell it not to a customer. You can simply, sell the whole business in terms of, this is what we have. Yeah. So commercially, you can say, okay, that's a possible exit strategy, even if. To be honest, I know that's how Word works. I find it a bit to a point depressing to think about that because it's end of something. I don't want to think about it. Even if it's about retiring to a certain point, but I don't know.
Let me rephrase it. How about cashing in on the brilliant project that you created and the tremendous value that you brought to all for-profit companies. So you created something where you have for-profit companies making money off of your free work. I don't get. So maybe there's got to be a way to flip the script.
No, again, commercially speaking, yes. I mean, for the commercial side, it is. It's more like trying in order to cash what Free Switch team does with SignalWire. They said, okay, that's it. We don't want to just be used and that's it. We want to be able to create let's say a sellable business at the end. And
well, they raised, I believe, $40 million.
Yeah.
Recently.
yeah, that's raising in terms of investments. At the end of the day, you need to see exactly.
So, but there's an investment of $40 million that went in to cover. I'm pretty sure they're paying themselves pretty well. So is that something? If you're comparing yourself, if you're comparing yourself to Free Switch and Signal Wire, obviously, and that's what you're saying, then why couldn't the same model be with OpenSIP and SIPhub? Why couldn't you take in capital to SIPhub and create a schematic on the future of that?
So first of all, we are not trying to do the same. It was just an example. So what how they are building kind of an, let's say, exit strategy, and more or less, let's say, even if I don't like to look at it as exit strategy, more or less, it may be applicable indeed to the SIPhub like that, because commercially speaking, it creates a customer base. So our customers, it creates a valuable product, and as a package, it might be attractive from maybe other company to take over to a certain point. Maybe there is a company saying, better opportunities on the market in terms of, selling in a better way those products, or making use in a better way of those products. And they say, okay, let me give you some money over here, and we take it over and do the billions later with it. I don't know.
Well, forget the word retire. I'm sorry I brought that word up, because you don't ever have to retire. It's just about maybe taking chips off the table or cashing in, or so I'm so many people are using your product, and so many companies are depending on you, and you're not making money. I have a hard time processing that. It's just.
Well, it's the two-edged sword of any free, open source project.
Yeah, I know.
You need a community, and the community won't be part.
Okay, so so then maybe the community should go public. Everybody gets shares, and everybody can say, "Shh, we're public now. Take some shares. Here's what I donated in my time. Here's what I helped build." Now you go public, and then you turn around and monetize it. So. Again, my mind is exploding and trying to comprehend. You're doing all this because you guys are smart?
That's the challenge, to see the fact, to understand the whole complexity when it comes to, the open source environment. The fact that, yes, you have something that theoretically is for free in terms of getting access to, but in the same time, you can actually build a business on top of it, which doesn't conflict with the idea of having a free code. So, okay, you don't sell code, you invest and build value on top of the knowledge. So that, let's say, accumulation of knowledge may be something that can be used later for, let's say, an exit strategy.
Okay. The knowledge is I understand what you're doing. So you're creating you're walking a wire here as far as, what you've done, what you've built, your community, the whole aura around it, and the whole mentality. But at the end of the day, you're saying we monetize the knowledge. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's why I liked his whole concept of the SIP engine, because I think the SIP engine is a nice way of creating this, entity that you can easily understand. I need this to power this part of my solution. And it could be just an SBC. It could be something far more complex, but it's just having these different types of engine that can be applied. So, I like the approach that Bogdan's taken. And, I'm going to be following it, because I think this is a very interesting way of, monetizing, the 15 years that have been invested in the OpenSIPS project, which will continue. Let's face it, open source projects never die. There's always a repository somewhere that contains the code. So it's always there. People can gain access to it. So that, and that's both the power, but the challenge in terms of once, because a lot of companies will, download the code and will have a clear strategy on if this project goes sideways, or if they try and do something weird and wacky because the license that the project is available under, do we have enough knowledge and competence internally to run our own instance? So then they basically go, that's it. We're no longer, we've got the code base and we're going to take it in our own direction now. And there are companies that make that decision so that they're de-risking, that dependency. So as I say, never dies.
Fascinating.
Yeah. But it's built the programmable comms industry. Without open source, we would not have, like Twilio was built on Asterisk, then it was built on FreeSwitch, then they had so much money they were able to build up a lot of the technology themselves.
Yeah, but the CEO became a billionaire.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
So help me, and he's public. So help me, which will be our next conversation. But again, I'm just fascinated by the amount of people that use your product.
Yeah.
The amount of companies, and not being able to tap into them. It's like Field of Dreams, build it and they will come, right? So you built it and they came, but you got to at least charge to come watch the game, no? Somehow, I mean,
well,
out of my head.
Yeah, one of the things is all the people in our team have a background of being engineers. None of us, it's a business people.
Yeah.
So basically what we do in terms of commercially is doing our best, filling in the gap and saying, yes, okay, we need to, at the end of the day, to put some money on the table. Not necessarily coming from the other perspective of trying to grow and build, a huge business. Not like we wouldn't like that, but okay, we are what we are. We are engineers, and we like to, we are good in writing code. That's it.
But you have changed the world. I mean, the key is that, yes, there's the monetary issue.
But engineers make a lot of money. Engineers is something that people are proud to say. My daughter married an engineer. Be like, wow, you married an engineer. Okay, so you're engineers that aren't making money.
No,
is what I'm saying.
It's about like find somebody on the Wall Street. It's not about engineers anymore.
Exactly.
I remember watching the Brady Bunch. Is like, oh, he's an engineer.
Yeah.
But I'm always reminded of the Microsoft quote where open source is communism. Was the statement. Yeah, but it's not. But it's a way, I feel, for a group of engineers to create something that punches way above their weight. It enables them to literally change the world. But the challenge remains how you earn money off changing the world. And I think what we're seeing across SignalWire, across a number of different, with Canonical, with SIPhub, are different approaches to, monetizing how they've changed the world. Because the first thing is you have to change the world. And that's what OpenSIPS has done. And it's enabled a very, powerful SIP router, now with a whole host of other features around it, that is used, across the world. As I say, programmable comms has been built on it. This industry exists thanks to open source. And, part of the challenge, I think, is, the projects need to find a way of monetizing, but also there needs to be a culture change in the industry. There are large, companies. I won't name names. One begins with an A that has a great, a global cloud infrastructure that uses some of these open source projects. And, whenever they make a demand around, well, we need this feature now. I say, oh, yeah, I understand, but, you could pay for it. Or, no, we're big, we're large, we're so incompetent, we can't pay open source projects, which of course is the lie. It's just, there's a
that big company with an A just spent $107 million at $61 a share for Twilio stock, and they can't pay for open source.
Yeah, I know. It's sickening, isn't it?
No, it's not sickening. What's sickening is you got to flip the script. So that's it. You have to flip the script. It's not sickening. It's challenging.
In terms of culture and mentality, what you, Alan, said before, I think we have to say a big thank you to Red Hat, because they were one of the first actually, proving that you can combine the open source with kind of a, I would say, commercial arrangement. I don't remember even when they started saying, okay, you know, Red Hat as a simple operating system for free cannot survive by itself. And okay, we need to do, okay, their option, I mean, there was to provide this enterprise edition.
Exactly.
Addressing a specific need of, let's say, of the businesses, of the companies in industry, saying, okay, who do I have to call when something goes wrong? You know, that's all the manager have to say. I want the number I have to call if something goes wrong. If you just take, you know, the bare bone open source, there's nobody to call.
Yeah.
So you are on your own. If you want to have your back by somebody else, then you have to talk to a commercial entity.
Exactly.
So that's the lesson Red Hat learned, and then taught us how to do it later.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. We are way over time because this has been a really interesting discussion. It's always nice when we get Johnny involved in these discussions because it's just that, you know, guys.
Johnny wants to smash his head. I want to smash my head against the wall. I'm not too happy about this. I don't get it.
Changing the world.
Like in one of those, you know, movies with the policeman, with the good policeman and the bad cop and good cop. You know, kind of a combination.
But the bad cop and the good, they both get paid though.
No, that's true. But anyway, this has been excellent, Bogdan. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this. It was a great conversation. So again, thanks, guys, and we'll speak to you soon.